Now let's do um, the descendants of Nabi Kareem. So, for Islamic community is a very wide topic, and it had lots of subtopics that we need to cover. We have just covered five of Prophet. Now we are going to do descendants of Prophet. Okay. So, like we just did, a Prophet had six children in together from Hazrat Khatija. Two of them were sons, four of them were daughters, while one son was from Hazrat Maria Qibtiyah. So his eldest son was Qasim, who was born in Makkah, and he lived for only 2 years. His second son, Abdullah, lived for less than 2 years, and when he also passed away, the people of Makkah would call him Abtar. So Allah Ta'ala revealed Surah Qasr, and in that he consoled Nabi Kareem. Then Prophet's third son Ibrahim was born in Medina to Hazrat Maria Qibtiyah, who also died in infancy. So only four daughters were the ones who survived during the lifetime of Nabi Kareem. First daughter of Nabi Karim was Hazrat Zainab Razillah Ta'ala Anhu. She was the eldest daughter of Nabi Karim and was born in fifth year of marriage when Prophet was 30. She was married to Abu Al-As bin Rabi. She died in 8 age and had two children, Ali and Umama. She became Muslim, but her husband did not initially. She stayed behind with him when the other Muslims migrated to Medina. He fought in Battle of Badr against the Muslims and he was captured. So her husband did not convert to Islam initially, and he was captured in Battle of Badr when he was fighting against Muslim. So Zainab sent her mother's necklace for his ransom. When Nabi Karim saw that necklace, he returned that necklace and then he paid on his own. So she returned to her father in Medina while her husband was freed and returned to Makkah. She did not remarry, hoping Abu al-As would become Muslim, which he did. He asked the Prophet to allow him to go back to Zainab, and then she died a year later. Her daughter Umama later on became the second wife of Hazrat Ali. So it's easy to remember, there's no much detail for Hazrat Zainab, just the fact that initially her husband did not convert to Islam, later on he did, and then she died during the lifetime of Nabi Karim as well, and she had only two children, Ali and Umama. Then the second daughter of Nabi Karim was Hazrat Ruqayya. She was married to Utbah, son of Abu Lahab, and was divorced by Abu Lahab's son when Prophet declared his mission. So Ruqayya was then married to Hazrat Usman. The couple migrated to Abyssinia. She gave birth to their son Abdullah, who passed away when he was 6 years old. The couple also migrated to Medina, where she fell ill and died at the time of Battle of Badr. So all the daughters except Hazrat Fatima of Nabi Karim died during the lifetime of Nabi Karim, and she was the one who got divorced from the sons of Abu Lahab. Then she got married to Hazrat Usman. Then Hazrat Kulsum, she was first married to Uteba, son of Abu Lahab, but also got divorced. But when a prophet declared his mission, she migrated to Medina with Hazrat Sada. And after the death of her sister Ruqayya, she was married to Hazrat Usman. She did not have children and died in 9 AH. So both of the daughters, one of them did not have the child, other one she had son but who died in at the age of 6. Then Hazrat Fatima was the Prophet Muhammad's youngest daughter. She was born a few years out before prophethood, and she was upset over the treatment her father faced by the Quraysh in Makkah when he was persecuted, and the Quraysh threw animal entrails on him. She lifted it off and cleaned him. So I have usually seen a question of Hazrat Fatima for 10 marks. So it's essential for you to remember the details of Hazrat Fatima. I have never seen a question for Hazrat Kulthum, Hazrat Zainab, or Hazrat Ruqayya. So yes, Hazrat Fatma is important. Pay close attention to it. She was married to Ali and had two sons and two daughters, Hassan, Hussein, Zainab, and Kulthum. She suffered hardships after her marriage and did all the work at home herself. For example, grinding flour and carrying water from the well. When she asked the Prophet for a share in the spoils of war after one of the battles, thinking she may be able to get a maid to help at home, He said, I shall give you something better, and told her to say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar before going to sleep. One of her nicknames was Az-Zahra, the resplendent one. Then Aisha said that she was the one who resembled to Nabi Karim the most. The Prophet is reported to have said, Fatima is a part of me, and whoever offends her offends me. So, this is a very beautiful saying which shows a great love and respect for Hazrat Fatima by Nabi Karim. Usually, people of Makkah and people of Arabia, they were not much fond of daughters, right? But Nabi Karim, he said that Fatima is a part of me. So, it means that anyone who upsets Fatma has upset me. So this is a huge status that Nabi Karim had given to his daughter, and that she was shown great affection by Nabi Karim, and Nabi Karim would visit her before he left on a journey and upon returning. When Prophet was ill, she was upset that he was dying, but happy when he told her that she would be joining him soon. She was the only daughter to outlive the Prophet Muhammad and passed away 5 months after her father at the age of 29. We have done the immediate children of Nabi Karim. Now we have the grandsons of Prophet. So Hazrat Hassan, he was the eldest grandson of Prophet. He was loved by Prophet, and his teachers were his father and grandfather. Hazrat Hassan is the son of Hazrat Fatima and Hazrat Ali. And Hazrat Hassan would immediately learn revelations by heart when Prophet recited. Prophet is reported to have said, Oh Allah, I love him, so I beseech you to love him. He was 8 years old when Prophet passed away. He tried to save Hazrat Usman from rebels, and he took part in all the battles during Hazrat Ali's Khilafat. After the martyrdom of Hazrat Ali, he was declared as fourth Khalifa by Amir Muawiyah. But he was declared as fourth Khalifa, but Amir Muawiyah didn't want him to become the Caliph. Both parties collected forces for wars, but Imam Hassan's forces did not show much eagerness. There were just few sincere followers as Amir Muawiyah's influence had grown. So from now, when Imam Hassan took the charge, things have started to deteriorate in the Islamic history because many enemies were standing against Hazrat Hassan, and Amir Muawiyah didn't want Hazrat Hassan to come and lead, and he wanted him or his son Yazid to take the lead. Then later on, a treaty was signed between the two, after which Imam Hassan announced that he was abdicating Khilafat. Imam Hassan was poisoned to death by one of his wives, who was promised a great reward, and this was done by Yazid and his army. Right, so we'll do Amir Muawiyah, we'll do the history of Amir Muawiyah and Yazid and Karbala. So yes, now coming towards Hazrat Hussein. After the death of Hazrat Ali, his eldest son Imam Hassan became the Khalifa, but Amir Muawiyah wanted his own son to be Khalifa. This created rift in Muslim Ummah. So right after Hazrat Ali, during the lifetime of Hazrat Usman and Hazrat Ali, the rifts were being created, and eventually, right after the death of Hazrat Ali, Amir Muawiyah became more influential, and he was the one who created rift in Muslim Ummah. So, on his deathbed, Imam Hassan handed over the charge of Imamah to his brother Hussein, who became the third Imam. After the death of Amir Muawiyah, his son Yazid succeeded, and Muawiyah had nominated Yazid as his successor during his lifetime. Imam Hussein refused to take the oath of allegiance. So Muawiyah had nominated his own son as a successor during his lifetime, but Imam Hussein did not take the oath. So we usually an oath was taken where you accept a particular person as the new Imam or as a new leader, but Imam Hussein refused to take it, and he decided to leave Medina and go to Makkah. Learning about the decision of the Imam, people approached him asking the reason for their decision. Imam Hussein replied that his refusal to take the oath of allegiance to Yazid would certainly annoy him, and he would not spare shedding blood for it. So he left Medina, as he did not want the city of his grandfather, Holy Prophet, to become a battlefield, because Imam Hussein did not take oath, and eventually he knew that Yazid is going to not spare a blood, and Imam Hussein didn't want the city of Medina to become a battlefield. So he left for Makkah. And when he arrived in Makkah on 3rd Shaban, Later, a deputation from people of Kufa approached Imam Hussein and requested him to come to their rescue as Yazid's governor were persecuting them. The friends of Imam Hassan knew the deceitful nature of the people of Kufa, so they tried to persuade him not to trust them. So this is now how Karbala started. That the people of Kufa, they came to Imam Hussein and asked him to rescue them because Yazid's governor was persecuting them. But the friends, the companions of Imam Hussein were well aware of the fact that they are deceiving in nature. So they tried to persuade him not to trust him, not to trust the people of Kufa. Thereafter, the Imam sent his cousin Muslim to Kufa to review the situation. The people of Kufa gave Muslim a very warm welcome, and thousands of them paid homage to Imam Hussein through Muslim. So, Muslim was the cousin of Imam Hussein. He was sent to Kufa. He reviewed the situation, and people of Kufa gave Muslim a very warm welcome, meaning they were trying to create this impression that Imam Hussein is needed over here. So Muslim was impressed with the entire enthusiasm of the deceitful nature of the deceitful people of Kufa. So Muslim now wrote a letter to Imam Hussein that now you can come to Kufa because people here are very acceptive. So when the letter was dispatched, Muslim learned of their trickery, and it seemed that almost all the leaders of the town had been bribed. So this is the nature of the people of Kufa, that Muslim came to know about their ill intentions, and the letter had already been dispatched, and Imam Hussein was now preparing to leave for Kufa. So eventually, added to it, strong threats from Yazid's deputy, the governor of Kufa, made people desert Muslim, and Muslim was killed. So before Imam Hussein could reach Kufa, in Muslim, the cousin who sent the letter, he was killed. Meanwhile, Imam had already left Makkah for Kufa. On the way, he heard the news of Muslim's assassination. With it, a large number of companions of Imam Hussein began to desert him, meaning that they started to leave Imam Hussein. But Imam Hussein proceeded as before. Soldiers were dispatched in all directions in the desert to stop the Imam and bring him either to Kufa or to Damascus. Unaware of the plot of his enemies, Imam Hussein stopped and camped at Karbala, near the Euphrates River. Soon after, Yazid's army too began to gather on the plain of Karbala and surrounded the Imam's camp. Because he was unaware that they are planning for a battle now, he stopped at Karbala, and the army of Yazid, they gathered around the camp of Imam Hussein. And on 7th of Muharram, Yazid's forces cut all the sources of supply of water to Imam's camp and did not allow a drop of water to reach them. All efforts of the enemy through temptations and tortures to persuade the Imam to yield to Yazid were in vain. Imam Hussein then decided to fight the forces of Yazid, but on his announcement that the end was near, people from his camp began deserting him until he was left with only 72 of his faithful followers. So, this is how people left Imam Hussein when he announced a clear war against Yazid, because Yazid's influence had already grown in Kufa and elsewhere. So, only 72 people were left. They were the faithful followers, and now the battle of truth against falsehood began. One after another, the Imam's followers laid down their lives. So I'm talking just about the 72 people who were left. They laid their lives, and finally, on 10th of Muharram, when all his devotees were slain, Imam Hussein was left all alone on the battlefield. He went to his sixth son Zain ul Abidin and handed over the charge of office of Imamah to him and went back to the battlefield. Swords and axes began falling on him, and he lay wounded from head to feet. Later, when he died, his head was cut off from his body and taken to Yazid's court. The tragedy of the death of Imam Hussein carries a lesson for the Muslim world. He could have saved himself, his friends, and relatives by giving allegiance to Yazid, but he stood firm to his principles. And with this, he was killed by Yazid's army. Imam Hussein had the support of only a small band of people, yet he won an everlasting victory over the forces of evil. Imam Hussein initiated war against the rules of Umayyads and refused to take the oath of allegiance to that authority. It is a legacy left by him that Muslims should never submit to any authority which goes against the divine law. So the only reason why Yazid and Amir Muawiyah wanted to take charge, wanted to take lead was for their own benefits. They were in no mood to support Islam and the preaching of Islam. And he took when we'll do Hazrat Ali, we'll do a great detail of how Amir Muawiyah and Hazrat Ali turned against each other, even though Amir Muawiyah was a very good follower of Islam. Yet in the Caliphate time, we'll be more able to understand that why all of this took place, why Amir Muawiyah turned against us, and how Yazid and his army killed Imam Hussein. Initially, they bribed the wife of Imam Hassan as well to poison him. He was also killed by Yazid. Imam Hussein was also killed by Yazid. And just the fact that if Imam Hussein would have taken oath of allegiance to Yazid, he would have been saved. But he did not, because the rules of Islam are more stronger, they are more superior, and we cannot let anyone who is not there to support the cause of Islam take the charge of Islamic community or take the charge of Muslim Ummah. And it's a very painful event that all Muslims should remember of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. And usually, I've seen a question coming up for Imam Hussein and Hazrat Fatma. So for descendants, prepare well for Imam Hussein and prepare well for Hazrat Khatija. For wives, prepare well for Hazrat Aisha, Hazrat Hafsa, and Hazrat Khatija. All right. And next Saturday, we'll cover First Islamic Community. And before that, I'll try to upload another recording for First Islamic Communities. In that, I'll cover immigrants and helpers and scribes of Prophet. So these are very small topics and you could just listen them via recording. Okay, I'll upload a recording before the next class, and inshallah next week we'll cover 10 blessed companions and we'll do nature of prophet. All right. So till then, jazakallah khair for joining and take care. Allah Hafiz.